Hello, my name is Nick Carroll, and it looks like I've got a new system to build. So a few months ago, a friend of mine asked me to build a system for him. He knows me as a system builder, and he's seen my recent PC build that I did for myself. So essentially, he ordered a bunch of parts, sent them to me, and now it's time to put it together. So before I actually assemble it, I'm going to unbox these things and show you each and every one of them, and then I'm going to go ahead and put them together, and let's see how it goes. So let's get started. I will have all the items listed down below, as well as their links to them on the Newegg website in the description below. But we'll start off with the Rosewell Challenger case. Okay, I just removed this from the box. Let's go ahead and lift the rest of this up. Move that all out of the way. Alright, here's the case here. Here's the front of the case, the side, the top, and the bottom. Okay, the next step here is to take this wrapping off. Throw that off to the side. Now I can go ahead and show you the front of the case. You can see here the USB ports up here, the audio ports, the eSATA port. Here's the power and the reset button. Actually, this is kind of a nice design. I'm going to go ahead and move this up towards the other side. This is where the intake or outtake would be through these holes there. Here's the back where we get a little better side. Here's the grommets for water cooling if you're going to go that route. Here's the fan, various slots here, and down below here's where the power supply would be, and of course further ports there. There's actually a fan included on the top, and of course the fan down there and the standoffs. So let me go ahead and open this up a little bit. Pull the screws, the thumb screws off from the side here to open this panel. Sorry for the noise there. And here's this side, the inside. It's painted black as well, so that's pretty nice and consistent. Then inside this case, the cabling, place for CD-ROM drives and additional drives, 2.5-inch drives, and then of course your 3.5-inch drives. And here's one of the mounting cases. That one kind of fell out there. And of course your documentation and bag of stuff. And let me go ahead and move this around the back. I'll unscrew these. And this pulls off. You can see this side of the case. There's some place for some tie downs for cabling here in the back if you want to reroute your cables through here. Of course, here's the other end of the drive trays right there. There isn't a lot of room down below here, but there is some for some cable management. And we're just going to go through these box by box. Here's a video card. An XFX R9 280 video card made by AMD, or designed by AMD and created by XFX. Here's the next box that I'll go ahead and undo. Looks like we have here a Rosewell power supply, 80+ bronze, 3-year warranty, not bad. And we have another box here. We'll go ahead and open up. Move all this stuff out of there. And sure enough, motherboard by Asus, an A88X-Pro FM2 plus motherboard. This is actually very similar to the one that I have from Gigabyte. And we have another box here. This one has a Bluray combo drive and a copy of Microsoft Windows. So this will make this a pretty good multimedia entertainment system. And the version of Windows is 8.1, 64-bit. And this was one of the first items that came in, so I unboxed it earlier already. But here is the AMD A10 7850K APU, which is a CPU and GPU combined. So it's got video and graphics capabilities, and then of course some other AMD fluff comes with that. And of course here's one of the other devices that came in a little early. Here's a hard drive. Let me see what the official specs are. The official specs, 4 terabyte hard drive. And last but not least, some G.SKILL Ripjaws memory, 1866 DDR3. So there you have it, a veritable tower of power. Next, it's time to build it. One of the first things I like to do in a case like this is basically I unroute all of the cables that are inside to the outside so I can get a better idea of what cables I have to use in this system. So as you can see, here's all the cables from the front, from the audio cables to the USB cable. These are to the external connections up front. The external SATA connection, and then here are the hard drive LED, the reset switch, and the power switch. And then here is power for the front facing fan. It's actually takes input from the front. And then on the back here we've got this fan here with the adapter for it. And then for this top mount fan we've got its own Molex or mini 3-pin connector. And here of course is the motherboard box. So you can see that there. Go ahead and remove this motherboard out of the box first. And let's see what else we have in the box. Okay. Set of cables, user guide, driver CD or DVD actually, and then of course the adapters for the motherboard to some of the cables that lead to outside of the case. Here of course is the power supply. So I'll go ahead and open up here. Here's the documentation, power cable, the power supply itself, and then here's a pouch for some of the modular cables. And then here is the power supply itself. This is actually a semi modular power supply, as you've got these cables which are standard, and then you have room for extra power leads that go out to the motherboard, etc. And here, of course, is the APU for the system. Here's the APU itself. There's the pins. And then here's a stock fan that's more than sufficient for this application, since we're not doing any overclocking or water cooling, etc. And actually, as indicated in my last video like this, there's actually some thermal paste already on this heat sink applied already, so I won't have to add any extra. And here, of course, are the 4 terabyte hard drive and the Blu-ray drive. Here, of course, is the G.SKILL Ripjaw RAM. It's DDR3, 1866 megahertz. Well, there's nothing special about it, but here they are. Here's the R9 280 video card. Pretty good bang for your buck at this moment in time. I'll go ahead and open this up. Kind of hard to see, but there's XFS, XXX, play hard. The letters are hard. Warranty information, pamphlets, drivers. There we go. Cables. Here's the power cables that would be used to power the video card, and here's a crossfire adapter in case you want to add a second card like this. And not to be forgotten, the actual XFS video card. You can see the DVI ports here, display port, mini display port, I should say. Pretty cool. There's the PCI Express. So here's the case, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this over here. The next thing we have to do for this build is essentially put this motherboard down in here, but there are some standoffs that have to be between this motherboard and the case itself that'll raise it up to prevent any sort of short circuit action. So what I do is I look at the different holes in the motherboard where it's supposed to screw in to the case, and I make sure I put the standoffs in the right location, and then I put this down. And of course the motherboard comes with these collection of screws and standoffs here, which I'll use in this case. So here is what a standoff looks like. It's really tiny. And then here is the tool I'm going to use to essentially put these standoffs in here. There's actually 9 locations I'm going to do. Here, 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 and right over here. And the trick with these standoffs is to screw them in fairly tight, but not too tight, because you don't want to strip the bolts or the little screw holes, because this is aluminum and it's fairly easy to strip. But not only that, you want these to be a little tighter than what the screws are going to be when the motherboard is screwed down, because there are holes in here which screws are going to go into. So you want to make sure that these are fairly tightly screwed into this case, but the screws that you screw into these can't be any tighter, because it'll make removing those harder, because if the screw is screwed tighter than this standoff is screwed into that, you run the risk of being unable to unscrew the screw without having this essentially be attached to the screw. So that's kind of a balancing act. You got to make sure that this is screwed in tighter than the screws that are going to be screwed into these. The next part of this is basically inserting this motherboard, or at least that's how I do it. Some people like to put everything onto the motherboard after, put everything on the motherboard first, test it, and then put it in there. For me, I like just putting it in place and then testing it there. So now I'm going to essentially put this over the holes, plug it into there, and make sure everything fits tightly. So I start out by positioning this where I can get at least one or two of these screw holes completely visible so that I can put a screw in there. And historically for me, the screw that's closest to this corner has always been the most difficult one to put in, so I start from there and make sure this is oriented and pushed in enough against this bracket here to where I can clearly see the hole. And then I start screwing the first screw in tight, just enough to get it there, and then I actually start working from either here or here to put in a screw. I make sure the hole is lined up here, screwed in, hole here is lined up, screwed in, hole here is lined up, screwed in, and usually through that process you can get all the other holes completely lined up, and then I screw all the screws in, and it's almost fairly tight each one when I screw all 9 of them in or so. And then once they're all in and I verify that everything is looking good, then I go ahead and tighten each and every screw again in sort of a diagonal kind of deal, and that completes that step. The next part I do generally is I get the CPU, or in this case APU, and the fan, and I install those onto the motherboard. Now the key to doing this right is to orient this correctly. There's a corner on this, there are 4 corners on this square, and one of these corners is an indicator, has an indicator mark on it that is used to help you orient this correctly on here. In this case the arrow is here, so you just lift this case up, and then I usually look at this just to make sure there's nothing bent, and then that's when I insert this. Okay, that fell down nicely. You can tell if it falls in 100% all on its own, that means that there's no bent pins, and then you can gradually put that down. Next is this fan, and usually you have a little bit of freedom in terms of which way you want to orient it. You can typically orient it this way, or you can orient it this way based on these little things right here and where they go against here. And usually the cable that supplies power to this fan from the motherboard is long enough to where you can orient it pretty much any which way. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and orient it this way. I had to get in there a little bit to kind of put it down first here, then first here, and then now I can go ahead and move this lever here. And as indicated, there's 2 places here to plug it in. One of these is specifically indicated for the CPU fan, so I'll plug this in right there. Okay, next up is the memory. Here's what I'm going to be putting in here. Now typically many of your motherboards today recommend you, in order to get the most out of dual channel, if you're using only a pair, is you use something like A2 or B2 further away from the CPU, in case you have like a really large CPU fan that might push away a little bit into the DIMM slots. Most large CPU fans don't really have that problem, but some of the largest ones do. So in this case, A2 and B2 respectively are where I'm going to be installing this RAM. Alright, and now I'm going to put them in. There's a little slot that has to match a notch on the motherboard. So I'm going to do that for both of these. Put them in right where they need to go, and then they should just snap. There we go. Okay, now with the 16 gigs of RAM installed, the next stop is to install this power supply so that we can supply power to this and test it out and make sure everything works. Alright, now I've got this power supply. I'm going to go ahead and put it in like so. Moving the cables out of the way. Then I'll go ahead and get this to where it needs to go in order to be mounted, and then I'll screw it together. Now that this has been secured, we have to plug in the 24-pin connection to the motherboard. Now that we've plugged this in, we have to plug one of these 2 adapters to here. There we go. Alright, so great news. I was able to plug this up, the power up, and then connect the power from the front and the reset switch, and the system powered up perfectly. So now all I got to do is finish putting the rest in and then close it up. Okay, so I wasn't able to perfectly reroute everything, but I did reroute the main power from the power supply to the motherboard around back, and then these the power switch, reset switch, and hard drive LED I rerouted through the back as well. So that'll clean it up a tiny bit. This cable is just a bit too short to properly route behind everything and then route it over, but that's fine. If I can get most of this out of the way, that's a good thing. Now it's time to put the different drives in, and we're going to start with the hard drive. This will be his primary drive, 4 gig drive, and then after that we'll do the Blu-ray drive. The cool thing about this case is you can essentially get a drive like this, attach these to the side here, and then drop it in, and the SATA data cable and the power cable are on the back, so you can actually reroute the SATA cables behind the motherboard for increased visibility. This also makes it really easy to remove these drives. You can reach around the back, unplug those, and then put them in wherever you go. Since this is going to be the first hard drive, and at this time the only hard drive, I'm going to put it up at the very top. And there's actually a CPU fan down here that'll still have unimpeded access to blow air into the case and then out through the back through this fan. Now that we've installed the hard drive, we have to install the Blu-ray drive, and we basically pop this out from the front here, and then we insert this drive. And we're going to have to do it from the front. And we'll remove this, which is a slight obstruction, and then we'll push the rest of this through. And there's actually 2 of these, one on each side, so you have to open up the other side, slide this in, and then make sure these holes match up, and then essentially put this down and then tighten it, and then it's good to go. Now it's time to start connecting these connectors, and this will actually route around, but I'll route to here. Then the rest of these I'll also route around, and I'll come up behind and get these here. So here's a quick look at some of the routing that's going on behind this computer. This is the external SATA cable. This is your USB and audio cable. And of course here's the power cable from the power supply to the actual motherboard. And then using this, we're going to route some of these modular power cables to supply power to the hard drive and to the DVD-ROM drive through the back. Here's one of the cables that is in that pouch, and it's got 4 SATA connectors on it. So this one cable will supply all the connectivity we need at this time. And this SATA cable has been routed from the inside, connecting to the Blu-ray drive, and then around to this drive here, and then I believe David is going to have an additional drive just below this one, so that's where this one comes in handy. Okay, I've now run all the cables back behind this case that I need to, so now I closed it up. Okay, now all we have to do is add this video card, and first I'm going to go ahead and peel off this XFX sticker. There we go. Then we got to take this off. And then we have to open some of these slots up so we can put this in. I've figured out which ones I need to remove, so here we go. Got them both removed from here now. I had to remove some cables out of the way in order to install this card, so I've got that plugged in now. Now I can reroute these cables. Now that I've plugged this in and tightened the screws, I can now connect the PCIe connectors from the power supply to the video card. Okay, I've connected this to here, and this now goes to here. Okay, and now we have to connect these 3 fans to different parts of the motherboard where appropriate. There we go. This fan is connected here. This top fan is connected over here, and this front fan is actually connected down here. So that works out pretty good as far as cabling. Now all we need to do is route a couple of these SATA cables around here from the CD-ROM drive, or Blu-ray drive to be more exact, the hard drive to the motherboard. So that'll be the next step. I'll have to open up the back part of the case real quick to take care of this hard drive there. Okay, all that is next to do is to basically tighten up these cables a little bit and then close the case and then connect this to a monitor and install the operating system. So as far as this is done physically, we are done. Okay, now I have to deal with the aftermath of all this physical work and now do the relatively boring work of installing an operating system and performing updates. And to do that, I'm actually going to have to hijack this monitor and keyboard and mouse and do this here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this video short. I want to thank everyone for watching this latest PC build of mine. This is for my friend David, who I'll actually be delivering this to him tomorrow, and we'll finish setting up the rest of it at his house, and that's about it. If you like this video, please put a little thumbs up down below on the like button. If you'd like to share this to others who are interested in just yet another PC build, you're welcome to do so. If you have anything you want to say, you're welcome to comment below and let me know if there's anything else you think I should have done differently, or maybe suggestions to help me improve this process. And if you haven't subscribed already, you're welcome to do so. And you'll see more videos that I produce over time. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.